How is the world's social landscape changing? What happens when more consumers are focused on health and well-being? The whole household shape is changing. Who's shaping it, and what do we do about it? Is fandom actually going to drive growth? These are big existential questions. How do we actually build trust? These are easy to answer, right?
Well, not really, isn't it? Hello, everyone. Thank you, Meredith. This is the type of questions that we all get on our desks every year. Those are very big, difficult questions that require very big, difficult answers. But we often tend to fall on the trap of just try to answer them with urgency. Just try to check what we have at hand. What is that I have in terms of the consumer trends in my category? What is the consumer intelligence telling me about how people are consuming my brands, my products? What it is the industry where I work telling me about how to shape the future of, in this case, social celebration? That was the brief that we were trying to crack. And we actually reach out our friends and partners in Kantar to get ourselves in a room and dig into all that information, all that knowledge that we have at hand. Problem, we're landing into the same approaches, same conclusions that we have landed in the past. But if we truly wanted to create the most preferable, exciting future for social celebration, we need to look beyond that. And we were not being able to do it. Actually, at the end of the day, we went for a drink.
As all good Diageo meetings conclude?
We conclude in the bar at the office. And I remember perfectly the drink that we're having. That day we're having 2 margaritas.
They were beautiful.
And I remember that we were hypnotized by the way the barman was coming with a shaker, put a lot of ice on it, pour a beautiful smooth Don Julio Reposado, splash of lime, some orange liquor on it, give it a good shake, put the 2 beautiful margarita ice glasses on top of the table, pour in some salt to give a little bit of contrast, and we have it. We're like, this is so good. And actually we start thinking, but this is so good not just because of the tequila that is great, it's not just because of the lime that is fantastic, or the orange liquor, or the glass. It's so good because the whole theatrical experience, the cozy seats where we were having the conversation, the whole atmosphere was brilliant. Therefore, we come to the realization that to resolve big problems, we should go beyond just trying to resolve components of those problems. We need to look at the broader, bigger picture. If we really wanted to crack the future of socializing, we should invite into the conversation to all those partners that actually have a stake on shaping the future of socializing. That's what we did. We went on the hands of the most brilliant minds out there that share the same challenge, right?
We absolutely did. And we thought, what are the other sectors that are non-competitors, reach across the aisle? Who else cares about this question? And of course, we reached out to Pinterest. And this isn't an important question to you, is it? No.
No. Pinterest, I mean, how many Pinterest users do we have in the room? Yeah, so you all know when you go on Pinterest to plan your future. Pinterest is all about the future. People plan their dinner parties, their relationships, their style is all happening on Pinterest. So in terms of how people are socializing, it's critical, and we see so many huge drinks trends happening on Pinterest. So what a perfect partnership.
Absolutely perfect. And then, we have all of the ingredients, we have the plans, but who's actually by our side? So I would imagine this is quite an important question for Tinder, it felt, when we reached out.
You were not wrong. Hi, everyone. So Tinder mission is to spark meaningful connections in a world that, especially for Gen Z, is experiencing an increasing loneliness epidemic. So we were pleased to join the conversation, especially because our goal, the quality goal that we want to bring to our audience, is socializing in real life, not online.
Absolutely. And so we reached out as partners and we reached out to so many more, a lot of whom are in this room. So you can see we had this broad range of folks from Kraft Heinz, Google, Unilever Home Care, the Pepsi Lipton team. We had a broad view of all these different players who don't compete, but who could partner to share a point of view and to shape a future. And, what we have found is that with our big question, there are all big existential questions in this room. With ours, there isn't one sector that doesn't in some way touch the consumer social life. And it means that we can actually bring together our collective intelligence, our brain power, our data, our annual plans to say, we could take some bold moves here. We could keep trying to do it on our own, but we can only solve one piece of the puzzle. You could be the great salt in the margarita, but if you don't put it on the right glass with the right ingredients, you only have part of the story. So what we want to talk a little bit about with our remaining 14 minutes is 3 benefits that we have found to partnering that we would really want to encourage you all to adopt in your day-to-day. So the first is really sharing data, sharing that intelligence, because it brings a richness to your consumer understanding that you can't just get alone. We want to talk a little bit about when you have all of that brilliance, what it really looks like in practice to collaborate, and we're going to hear some stories about it. Because what we get to do when we come together is not just to react to change, to say, oh no, the consumer's moving over here, here's what they want, here's what they expect. We get to shape that world for consumers around your big existential, big disruptive questions. We get to find the new space and then create it while the consumer is asking for it. So let's start with that sharing data, and each one of us representing a beautiful piece of data. So, of course, if you're a friend of Kantar, you'll know we bring a wealth of longitudinal consumer attitudinal data, behavioral data, big future drivers, and that helps us understand a really broad view of the consumer. But when we thought about our big question, that data is not enough. So then we take the amazing work that your team does, Javi, at Diageo.
So at Diageo, we built a few years ago a proprietary product that is called the 4C system that actually enable us identifying the future drivers for social celebration. It can help us understanding what's the role of digital, what's the role of moderation. It tells us as well about how habits are changing in terms of people putting more time and effort on hosting at home than ever before. But we're lacking as well a little bit of further color of how that could come to life. And that's when we turn into Pinterest.
Yeah, and Pinterest is a really interesting platform because people are coming there to, like, you're all Pinterest users, you're all coming to plan your best life, to plan your future. So our signals are all about the future. And we actually call it internally structured wandering. So our pinners will wander around the Pinterest platform, leaving signals for us in terms of this is a vibe they like, this is an aesthetic they like, this is a drink they're into. So we actually have a very big richness of data, and often our pinners don't have the words to describe what they're looking for. So you might look at a beautiful drink, or you might look at a vintage outfit, but you won't have the words, you won't know that's fisherman's aesthetic or cherry coded. What we do is we can take those visual discovery signals and put nomenclature around them and then feed them back into our system. And then we can work with brand partners to inform our brand partners what will be trending in the future, how will consumer behavior manifest itself in the future. And I think that's why these deeper partnership with brands are actually really critical also for our success.
And that adds a whole texture. But there's another piece of understanding that consumer missing, who they're with, where they're going, what they're seeking. And then when we reached out to the Tinder team, wow, did we add another layer, didn't we?
Through our Tinder Future of Dating report, we know that 75% of Gen Z believe that they are redefining the norm of how relationships should look like, how dating should look like. They are all for authenticity, low pressure, an insane passion for nails painting, as you heard before, and other things. But most importantly, they are redefining the language to express themselves. So should we call it dating anymore? For example, a word like situationship for Gen Z is describing much more how they look like at the dating process.
And, I mean, I found my husband of 10 years on Tinder, so I'm very happy I'm outside the situationship zone, frankly speaking. But so there's one positive thing for you about partnering. But another is that what we found so fascinating about mixing all these different data sets, plus that of all of our other partners in this work, is that each one of us would have never written the brief for insight that the others did. But man, can we benefit from a richness of understanding. And so that combination of data is a really beautiful alchemy that kind of is that perfect cocktail. And so we did a couple of things with that data. We shared it with each other. We didn't just send each other files. We got together, we pitched it to each other, we talked it through. We got together in collaborative moments at Diageo's 1HQ. We got together on calls. We filtered it through amazing generative AI tools to help us pull out hypotheses. And that allowed us to say, now, how do we turn it into action? So a lot of shared data is a huge benefit, but also then collaborating across brand lines is really crucial to disrupting the consumer's perception and to really driving that future for them. We wanted to talk about a few of these in practice. So, Noreen, I'd love you to tell us a little bit about some of that partnering that you guys have been doing with brands at Pinterest.
Thanks, Meredith. Look, I've had the sort of privilege of working both on the brand side and on the platform side. And I mean, for example, I'll never know as much about Baileys as you know, but I will know about how your consumers are acting on our platform, how they're thinking about socializing, how they're planning their dinner parties, how they're inviting their friends. Like I'll have all of that information. And having worked at both on the brand side and on the platform side, what I realized is when you're on the brand side, you have a relatively sort of linear view of what happens, but you know your consumers very deeply. When you work on the platform side, you have this really broad understanding of how consumers are behaving across categories and how consumers are behaving across brands. And actually, the way I describe it to my clients is like the magic happens somewhere in the middle. There's like a secret sauce when the platforms share what the platforms share what they know with the brands, and actually that's where the magic happens. And I've just got a couple of examples to talk through. And if you wanted to go more deeper, we can certainly do that in the break. For example, we worked with Primark. Primark came to us and wanted to have more insight onto how consumers are thinking about home aesthetics. Now, we have that foresight in terms of whether that's cottagecore or maximalist aesthetic. So we worked with Primark to develop their spring collection, which they launched this year, which was really successful across the country. But the thing that I really want to speak about is a partnership that we did with Dove. I don't know if we've got some Unilever. I saw Unilever on the slides. I don't know if we've got some Unilever people in the room. But it's 20 years of real beauty. Like, it makes me feel really old because I remember when that was launched.
Still beautiful.
So now you've thrown me, you see.
Sorry, I needed to compliment
I get
you.
a compliment so infrequently that when I get it, I'm just, what the hell's this happened? So what we were seeing is, in the world with the advent of AI, when consumers were searching beautiful woman or weight loss, they were almost getting AI images coming up in sort of traditional search. On Pinterest, we were seeing the opposite issue. What we were seeing is body positivity, body positive aesthetic, those searches actually rising double and triple digit. So we then started having conversation with Unilever saying, actually, could there be a way to hack the algorithm? How can we work together to figure out what women want, what real beauty aesthetic looks like for women today? So that's what we did. We developed like quiz ads where on Pinterest is very much about skin types, body types. So consumers were able to go into our platform and develop boards, which was like what real beauty, what positive body aesthetic meant to them, and they could share that more broadly. And then over time, that then sort of hacked their algorithm. So what they were seeing was more positive imagery rather than negative imagery. So that's been very exciting, and I think not only for us, for Unilever, for the business, but also it won 3 awards at Cannes this year, including one Grand Prix, which is always nice, isn't it?
I'm complimenting you again. Very well done.
Always nice.
and I think that's such an amazing story about being greater than the sum of your parts. I think there are other types of partnership stories where sometimes they start with a bit of a threat, don't they, Paolo?
Yeah, I will get to that in a second, but bear with me. We are going back in time for a moment, and I need your help. Who remembers the Clue Train Manifesto? Raise your hand.
The Clue Train Manifesto. We've got a
Okay.
few.
Age-wise is interesting because it was 1999, the very beginning of the internet era, and the Clue Train Manifesto for the first time was analyzing the relationship between the internet phenomena that was raising at the time and traditional marketing techniques. And one of the key points of the Clue Train Manifesto was that marketing had to change because the impact of consumers' online conversations was going to reshape the whole industry forever. One of the most controversial and challenging statements of the Clue Train Manifesto, maybe you heard of it, was markets are conversation. Now, you can flash forward 30 years later, unfortunately for some of us, and it's very obvious today that if you are a direct-to-consumer brand, you have no option. You need to have a brand partnership strategy. Why? Because if markets are conversations, you cannot have a conversation on your own. And even if you have a conversation with creators or with your consumers, you're missing a large part of what's happening out there in the online space. Social media platforms change over and over again how internet is looking like. We are at the edge of another change that is no more the creators one that was a few years ago. It's AI, long conversation that we're not going to have today, but we do know today that there is a direct correlation between share of voice and market share. So from a media and business perspective, there are no options. You need to have, if you're a direct-to-consumer brand, a brand partnership strategy, even when a partner can come to you in the shape of a threat. When at Tinder we heard social comments and headlines about Strava is the new Tinder, running is the new dating, we wanted to embrace that challenge. And we wanted to embrace it because we thought there is something there. There is an insight, there is something culturally relevant for the audience. And that's how the Running into Your Soulmate campaign brought to life, merging together digital and physical experience. We had 23,000 participants at the Acne Half Marathon here in London, 50,000 runners that accepted our challenge online. And it was the best result that we had in the whole quarter for social media engagement. But most importantly for us as a brand is that this partnership was cementing the core of what Tinder is. Tinder is the most fun way to spark something new with someone new. Let me end as I started. I'm asking to Joe Pons and Saoirse Fitzgerald to stand up a second. They are in the audience. I can see them. Or raise your hand at least. They are in charge of all our media partnerships here in Europe, based in London and Dublin. We are here to have more conversations like that. And so if you have a great challenge, we are here to hear you. Thank you.
And probably run, don't walk to meet them, I think makes really good sense. You might run into your soulmate downstairs at lunch, who knows? And thank you both for sharing those. Now, with regards to the future of socializing, we've launched our point of view, but we're not done yet making action happen, are we?
Yes. If we think, this whole conversation started 1 year ago. We landed the thinking, the thought leadership, just a few weeks ago. And now we're actually plugging it in through the veins of Diageo. Now it's part of our consumer choice framework. So everything that our marketers will be planning to do for coming fiscal is going to be infused, it's going to be actually ignited by the knowledge of this consortium of brands. So it's not just looking at the world through the lenses of Diageo, it's looking at the world through the lenses of future of socializing. And that's only the beginning. We have a non-written contract in which anytime that any of us need from each other to come into an innovation workshop, to come into presenting something with exec, to have a conversation with the board, we have that network built. And the power of that network is something that we have never had before. So yeah, it's the beginning of something that we believe is going to be much bigger.
Absolutely, absolutely. And kind of what that means for us is that when we have these shared perspectives, when we're not just talking to ourselves, and when we create that network of peers who work across the aisle, who work in different sectors, who work in different brands, it means we can actually shape the future that consumers are asking for, that industry alone hasn't been able to keep up with. Does it sound complicated? I want to show you how easy it is. So I have a homework for you in the lunch break. If you could quickly do a quick scan for me, I would love to see what you can come up with in the lunch. Oh, I love compliance. Look at them all go. Thank you very much. Okay, so grab that link. I want you to think in the lunch break of an opportunity to partner to disrupt, to really find new space. And so I've got a cheeky little tarot reading for you here. What we found in some of our Future of Socializing work, I'm going to give you a bit of a preview. So we're going to start with a who. So, and you can take a picture when it's all up, don't worry. I want you to think of a who. Let's take a group of 12 Gen X friends who have rented out a bookable third space, who are having one of the most trendy inch stones rather than milestone celebrations, the growing in popularity, why cry when you can have a good time, divorce party. I mean, listen, who doesn't want a cake that bleeds? So how could you partner with Bailey's, with Pinterest, with Tinder, and put your brand at the heart of it? I want to see on that forum over lunch where you think in Q1 you could launch an activation. I want you to challenge yourselves to say, you know what, we could get in a room, we could make this happen, because there's living proof that it's happening every day and it's helping answer those big existential questions. What we know is that if we come together, if we stop talking to ourselves and we start working with one another, we can build that preferable future. There are 600 of you in the room who could all meet a new peer from a different sector or a different industry today. Come talk to us. We're going to be downstairs in the ignition zone. We want to encourage you to bring partnering, to find that new space, to become part of your day-to-day practice. So, Javi, what's our big question to them? Will they or won't they?
I think that they will, and I wanna, close with one final thought that it is. We have been talking about AI so long during the last couple of years. We have a session on AI today, an immersion downstairs. But actually, AI will become commodity. It will become like the internet. What AI will never substitute is this one-to-one conversation around a cocktail that started 1 year ago, followed up by more one-to-one conversations with those partners, and the ability of having more one-to-one conversations every time that we need it. So just reflect about it for 1 minute. Just think about what that implies, and just think the opportunity that we all have here, 600 brand builders that we have in this room, to have that one-to-one conversation to create maybe a bigger consortium on the future of socializing, or actually groups of consortiums that happens to be on adjacent industries for a different subject. So
absolutely. So we're hoping that we've converted you to the church of partnerships and making those connections. And I think to close, here's to the future. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.